It's the third Saturday of the month, so we're back with Game Club. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Moonpir.
Hello.
MusiM's taking a knee this month because of, like, everything in his life. Just, everything's going bad.
Let's just say it's hard to play video games without electricity and leave it there.
Yeah, so, he'll be back next month and, we'll get everything sorted out then. But we are here to talk about our current game, which is Massive Chalice. I should screen that because it's all in caps, but I won't because I'm tired. Mm-hmm. Game was released June 1st, 2015. Published and developed by Double Fine Productions. Launched on PC, OS X, Linux, and Xbox One. The only other piece of sort of relevant info I have there is that Brad Muir was the lead designer on that, and he also did... okay, I need to remember the Trench game that has two names, Iron Brigade.
Yes.
Got it. It was Trenched, then it was Iron Brigade.
Yep. Did you catch that reference as one of the optional choices during the course of the game, by the way?
No.
It's like they want you to promote something, so it's like, you can promote this school, you can promote this training academy or something for the regular folk, or you can promote this square ball team called the Iron Brigade. Great. I saw that and I literally burst out laughing. I was like, ha, that's pretty good.
Time travel Metacritic 73, OpenCritic 74. That stayed pretty solid across all the platforms. Mm-hmm. It was around the low to mid 70s. Appears for the release date Splatoon, which sort of came out of the Wii U one that came out of left field, a surprise hit.
Yep.
Fallout Shelter landed on iOS. That's probably the game everyone was talking about instead. And Batman Arkham Knight.
The biggest fart of a game from that studio, apparently. I haven't played it.
Yes. I played a little bit of it, and it's an open-world Batman game. It stuffed more stuff into it.
Great. It's also worth mentioning as well that this was a Kickstarter game.
Oh, it was. Yes.
A goal of $725,000, and it was succeeded with $1.2 million. So
nice.
Easily cruised over the goal, and it was right around that period of, we can do this on Kickstarter.
Video games work on Kickstarter. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot that, because MusiM backed it at whatever level it was to have a house named after him. So the house Beauchamp was put in the game, which for the first time I didn't pick.
I can't remember if I did. I think I did, but I can't remember.
Yeah. As we ask every month, was this game top of the pile, middle of the pack, or overlooked?
I think, the reception at the time, was very middle of the pack, because I think...
Yeah.
But I think the issue with the pair of us is our general sources for video game news and information. Mm-hmm. One site specifically is gonna cover this game hardcore because of who made it. Right. Which is to say... GiantBomb.com gave this game a fair bit of coverage, while at all points saying, we know the guy who's kind of the lead designer behind this.
Right. He's that smiley guy that's always on the streams, that guy.
I don't know if they ever did a quick look of it, but they definitely had him on a fair bit to talk about it.
Yeah, I would agree that it's middle of the pack. I'd be somewhere between middle of the pack and overlooked, as I feel like it landed fairly early in the Xbox One's life cycle and didn't come out on the 360, and also didn't come out on the PS4. So I feel like that it sort of landed wrong time and on platforms that, the Xbox One took a little bit of time to gain steam. So I think it would be hard to encourage people to go try Massive Chalice, because in a lot of regards, 3 years on, it's already pretty dated.
Yeah.
Getting into what we do and don't like about the game.
Let's get down to brass tacks. There is a lot of things about this game I love, and there's a lot of things about this game I actually really am not a big fan of.
Okay.
So, Oh boy. Okay.
I'll let you go first.
Shall we actually just describe it first? Which is it's a XCOM-esque strategy RPG.
Yeah, it's an XCOM-like.
Yeah, mixed with my wife is going to kill me for this. One of the Total War campaign games or something like that, or one of the Dynasty games. It's got like that houses and bloodlines and all that kind of stuff.
Right, and eons of characters and yeah.
And it's got I genuinely actually like the art style in this game. Like
it's I think that's one of its selling points is I think it has a cool art style that makes it's very easy to tell what type of units you have and what type of units the enemies are. It's not like, well, here's aliens and the bad one is the purple one, but they all sort of look the same. You know, they're just palette swaps.
Yeah. Okay, so, oh boy.
This is tough because there's almost nothing I like about this game.
See, that's the problem for me is there is a lot I do like about this game. Like, I like the XCOM style combat. Like, I think they do a pretty good job of building their own version of the XCOM turn-based strategy kind of stuff. Genuinely do enjoy that. There is like 5 enemy types, which is a problem.
Yeah, to me, the low number of enemy types isn't necessarily the problem with the enemies. It's that there are too many that punish you for killing them up close when the majority of your units at the beginning of the game are Caberjacks, so the melee unit. It's like, yeah, that's a little... It feels a little bit like that should be some of the end units.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, the last 2 you unlock, you make sure you throw the potions and you shoot the arrows and all that stuff. It feels a little bit... That's certainly not the biggest problem with the combat, but it doesn't help.
Yeah, I mean, the limited enemy types, I mean, you kind of hit on it there. Like, I struggled at the beginning of this game because they throw ranged units at you that do some nasty punishing effects on you straight away.
And some of them sap your experience, which is just the worst.
And
why video games?
Stun you when you get close. It's like, great.
Yeah.
So, I struggled a lot with the start of this game. It was actually, I was very grateful because my wife absolutely adores this game. And I can see why, because it tickles a fair few buttons that she really, really loves. So it's
sure.
So this is right in her wheelhouse. I can understand why she absolutely adores it. But I struggled a lot, and then it was only thanks to her basically saying, "Look, get archers, get a whole bunch of archers, and then use them very efficiently, and that will help." And it did.
Right.
And it
because their range is crazy.
Yes. Especially when they get like to the higher levels and stuff. It's difficult to see the use in a fair few of the other classes because it's like, okay, you've got a semi-middle ground guy who does melee and ranged attacks, but he has a limited number of ranged attacks, which are very powerful. But then he's really bad when he does the melee.
Is that the potion throwing guy?
Yeah, like the alchemist.
Yeah, and his accuracy is bad.
It starts off bad. Like by the end, by the high level stuff, I had a couple of them, especially when you start getting relics and stuff like that in the timeline. I had a couple of them who were like, "Oh, you're 10 squares away, and it's still 100% accuracy." Because why not?
Right.
I don't know. Like let's start on the combat. So I actually quite like the combat.
Okay.
What about it don't you like?
Virtually everything. So I think the 2 biggest problems for the game is we'll talk about the game's 2 big influences as we go. Clearly one of the 2 big influences is XCOM. And as part of that, you need that fog of war. And I get it. But the problem is that it feels like the enemies behind Fog of War aren't moving at the same time. So pretty quickly you kill 5 or 6 enemies and you're like, oh, that's not all of them. Now you have to start spreading out and scouring the corners of the map. that gets really tiring, combined with how abysmally slow movement, attacking, everything about the combat really is. I think the combination of those two, where it's sort of like, okay, I found another 3 enemies and I killed those. That's not the end of the map. Okay, let's go to the scouting party again. That gets really frustrating really quickly for me. And I think compared to something like the most recent XCOMs, I haven't played the classic ones, but the most recent one, XCOMs, the enemies are moving off screen, like in the fog of war. So a lot of times they're going to be pushing towards you at the same time that you're pushing towards them. So it's just, you can wait it out a little bit, but not in Master Chalice.
Yeah, you do have to find them before you actually can do anything about them. Like, they're very rarely in a larger scale sense, they're never going to come to the beginning of the level if you sit there for 40 turns. I completely understand. That is one of the, for me, that is one of the negatives about the combat. It's painfully slow, which is a theme, I think, that will go throughout the rest of this episode.
Yeah, we are unfortunately also playing Sunless Sea at the same time we're playing this game. 2 games that are, let's call them, they have a deliberate pace.
Yeah.
And that pace is glacially slow.
Well, let's also mention the fact that it's the end of the year. We're both exhausted for different reasons.
Right.
So it's one of those really bad situations where it's like, here's a roguelike that we're playing that is very deliberately paced. Here's a Game Club game that we're playing that is very deliberately paced. Can I just take a nap and it play itself?
Right.
I for me, that's fine though. Like, I'll be honest, Massive Chalice was my, hey, I'm going to get my raids done in Strike Force. I'm going to get my story missions done in Marvel Puzzle Quest.
Yeah,
it's like,
you can multitask.
I'm going to match the hell out of these 3 gems, and I'm going to press the auto battle button on Strike Force as quick as I can, and then go back to taking my next turn. But yeah, the combat is very, very slow. Like you said, like we did discuss, like, I do love the designs. I like the layout and the level design for the different zones. Like, each different zone has different layout, and I do like that.
Yeah, me too.
I hate the one on the very bottom, like dead south, dead center, is the white one with the stupid eggs. I hate it. It's
always the worst. It's
really good level design and really good design of like how to interact with that type of map. I absolutely hate it. It's like
it's just, I think you're right. It's one of those where it's like, I appreciate the level design. I think you guys did the right thing. It's just, that game has to have one of those levels you hate, where you get in, where they invade, and you're just like, okay, I'll do it. I don't want to, but that's the place I gotta go.
It's this stupid cannonball flying pirate ships in Super Mario Brothers, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's one of those, it's like, oh great, one of these levels.
Right. I'll do it.
Awesome.
I'll lose a bunch of lives, but I've got it.
Yeah. Okay, so we've settled the combat. Let's talk about the actual... Oh boy, let's talk about...
the other half of the game.
Let's go over the timeline, the house building, and the Bloodlines kind of story, which I wish I could remember the game my wife is obsessed with that has this kind of stuff. Because they actually recently patched it into one of the most recent versions of the game, because everybody basically rebelled that it didn't have the Bloodline stuff in it.
Oh, I'd be curious to see. Is it one of the Dynasty Warriors games?
No, like we're talking like houses and familial power and stuff like that.
Now I'm curious, because that sounds like something that would be pretty interesting. Yeah, so they designed it around 2 modes. I'm glad I found this article again. Tactical, which is the turn-based combat mode, and then strategy, which is the other half, which is the timeline and the research and the house building and succession and bloodlines and all that.
Yeah, which they do some stuff in this that I love. Like, I do love the whole relic thing. Like, that's a genuinely good idea. Here's a dude who made a name for himself in combat. He's dead. He has a cousin, or he has a brother, or a sister, or whatever, or a niece, or a nephew, or a grandson who he can bestow his weapon onto, and then they can keep going with that weapon. That's a fantastic touch. because that gives you the ability to take someone who's a young and low level and power level them really quickly because they have a weapon that's already essentially been through one full life.
I wish that combined with... I wish they made that clearer early on, and combined with figuring out some sort of way to make the later choices in the talent tree per character, make that a lot clearer, because at the beginning it doesn't seem like you're really working towards anything, sort of in both of those areas. And I wish they would have figured out a way to kind of make that clearer, where it's like, aim towards relics, and then here's your two main trees, sort of figure out which one you want.
Which, something I didn't learn until literally the last mission of the game, which I beat today. Did you know you can level people up during combat by just hitting the left stick button?
Yeah, they mention it like once, and then every time someone levels up, I'm like, I'm just hitting everything on this controller. Oh, it's one of the sticks. Okay, now I can level someone.
I knew that was the inspect button because I've done that with enemies I've never seen before.
Right.
I didn't know when you leveled up during combat,
right,
you can actually just assign them a level right then and there, and what skill they use. Because let me tell you, when you get to level, like, the level 10 abilities are ridiculously OP. Like, super duper OP. But then when you're on the final level of the game, which is essentially a horde mode, and you get hit by a stupid wrinkler who takes a level away from you, and you lose that level 10 ability because you don't gain XP over the cap to give yourself a buffer. You hit the cap and you stop.
Right.
So then it's like, well, I took one hit from a wrinkler and now he's back to level 9. Yay, I lost my level 10 buff.
Now I gotta kill 4 more dudes.
It's not even that. I thought I was done. I thought it was like, well, that guy's never going to... He might be level 10 now, but he still hasn't got his buff. And then I accidentally clicked the left stick and I was like, are you kidding me?
Son of a...
Because the archery buff, like for record, I don't know what the alchemist's one is, but the archery buff for level 10 is everyone you kill gain 5% in offensive stats.
Wow.
Yeah. So let me tell you about how one of my guys has got 50% damage boost on the last level.
Right.
And he's one-shotting everything and getting an additional 5% damage boost for everybody he kills.
Jeez.
Let me tell you about my Caberjack, who at level 10, when he deals a killing blow, gets a free action point.
Oh, jeez.
So when you kill one of those stupid plant monstrosities who spit out the explosive barrels and the little seed things, when you've got a big line of seed things and the ghost things that take off XP. So yeah, it's the ghost things that take off levels, not the stupid wrinklers. You get one Caberjack who's level 10. You hit the first one, you kill him, you go to the next one, you kill him, you go to the next one, you kill him. In one turn, I wiped out 9 enemies with a level 10 Caberjack.
Jeez.
Like those, I get it. It's like, yeah, these are level 10. These are the creme de la creme of warriors.
Right.
So I get why they're so OP, but it would have been handy to know I could level them up in battle before then.
Yeah, and it's frustrating that there's such a chasm between level 1 and level 10. Like, I'm glad that they're so potent at level 10, and that's a great reward, but starting the game, it feels like you're sort of shooting spitwads at enemies, and the early game for
it's so
a
hard.
Really long time feels very punitive on both sides of the game.
Yeah.
It feels really rough.
I mean, it doesn't help as well that, like, you ain't getting to level 10 with your first 5 generations of people.
Right.
You're only getting to that level by having stored experience from the families that you have built up, who then you can turn into higher level people by doing the battles with them and then getting them leveled up that way. It gets a little ridiculous real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish that I wish I had these same problems the first time I played the game. I don't think I was a Kickstarter backer, but I bought it when it came out. And I still can't figure out how I would change the strategy mode, the sort of timeline mode, because I feel like there's maybe one or two design choices you can make differently there, and I feel like it would be really worthwhile, and it might just be, surrounding tutorialization where it's, welcome to the game, work on relics to, carry your skills down from generation to generation. But it's too easy early on in the game to trap yourself in raising a squad and them all dying of old age at the same time.
And then you got nothing.
And you have no houses that are in a good position to get you more teammates. I feel like early on in the game, it's without knowing anything, it's too easy to sort of brick run after run until you sort of figure out, oh, okay, well, here's how I can do this and here's how I can do that.
Yeah.
Feels a little punishing.
Oh, at the very beginning of my run, I bricked myself into 3 houses producing alchemists. I was like,
oh, jeez.
I need fresh blood in here because this is not going to end well.
Right.
So
I complete a mission that gives me a baby.
Yeah, I complete a mission that gives me a new baby, and throughout the course of the game, I probably did the find new heroes thing 5 times because I need fresh blood, I need different classes in here because somehow I've got myself trapped into a corner where I'm just getting hot garbage and I'm kind of done.
And I wish it was easier to do the research stuff because a lot of those upgrades are very impactful, especially armor and weapons for your units. Those are very big upgrades, but I feel like in maybe the first half of any playthrough, it's hard to juggle. Do I increase the effectiveness or the defense of my units, or do I start creating more houses, or do I start getting some of the other buildings set up and researched? That balance is pretty hard.
Yeah, and it's you can get a crucible which increases your training, which is the only way to get the people who are not in your vanguard unit higher level, so then they produce higher level people.
Right.
But then to do that, you need to ideally put one of your vanguard as the standard, so that then they pass that experience down even further. It's so many intermingling systems, and it feels like each system got one line.
Yeah.
This is a house. This is the regent. Pick a partner. They produce babies. These are the baby types you're going to get. Figure out what to do with them later. Here is a crucible. It trains people. Here is the whatever the research building is called. It improves the speed of your research. Figure it out.
It's by how much does it improve my research? How much does it do? And then, unfortunately, the XCOM side of the game is given even less. Where it's sort of here's how to move, here's how to shoot stuff. That's it. Good luck. And that's sort of, I get it, but I feel like that's where you start seeing a lot of the lower budget and the delays from this game is sort of you're expected to play a whole bunch of playthroughs before you get one that is really solid. And I didn't look at a wiki or a best starters guide or anything like that, because half the time it's sort of do these 3 things and then the rest of the game is impossibly easy. It's well, I don't really want to do that.
Yeah, it's the roguelike thing where we don't want to we would rather stumble into the best build possible and have the joy of discovery than just have it told to us.
Yeah. I think for me, if I was going to distill Massive Chalice down, is I think there's 2 Double Fines. I think there's the Double Fine that makes original games, like Trenched, Broken Age, a lot of the stellar stuff that they make. That stuff is really great. And I know that Brad Muir was saying he designed it because he loved XCOM and Final Fantasy Tactics. I think when Double Fine makes these games that are homages to other either established franchises or established genres, nearly every time they're pale imitations of what made those genres or made those games great. I think if anyone is curious enough about Massive Chalice, I think instead you should play Final Fantasy Tactics and the first new XCOM.
Yeah.
I think both of those do
XCOM
the things
2011
that they do.
or whatever it was, like that.
Yeah.
That is one of the best turn-based strategy games I have ever played. And I've
Hands down.
barely scratched the surface of it. Like, that thing is insanely good.
And Final Fantasy Tactics now, God, was 15, almost 20 years now, later, is still being hailed correctly as one of the best Japanese turn-based SRPGs, for good reason. It is incredible as XCOM is. And I think when you look at stuff like that, and then you look at Massive Chalice, they tried, and they got close in a lot of stuff, but it just needed more of everything.
Honestly, I'd love to see a Massive Chalice too. I'd love to see a sequel to this. I know it's never going to happen at this point.
Yeah.
But if they...
Well, Bradmere doesn't work at Double Fine anymore.
I know. That's why it's never going to happen. Honestly, this is a $1.2 million game, ostensibly.
Right.
And what they did for $1.2 million is so impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, genuinely impressive, and it tickles me that Cortana is a voice actress in it. Makes me laugh so much.
I forgot about that.
Because it's really weird hearing her voice. Like, this is a really good... I think it's a very good beginner's guide to strategy RPGs. I don't think it's the best one, but it's simple enough at the same time. Like you said, if you're interested in starting with SRPGs, just like we talk about...
like starter Metroidvanias or starter roguelikes.
Starter JRPGs, the Halloween one, whatever that thing's called.
Costume Quest. Yeah, another Double Fine game. Costume Quest is incredible.
Yep, and that's a very good starter JRPG. I think this could be a very good starter SRPG if you've got a little bit of guidance going into it, which I'm lucky I did. You were talking about how the Double Fine homages tend to be a little bit askew. Couldn't help but think they're like the direct polar opposite of Blizzard, who only make homages but make them perfectly.
Right. Yeah, we're gonna lift this thing, and whoops, it sold 10 million copies.
Yeah. Let us make an MMO RPG.
Right.
Let us make a character action shooter.
Right.
Let us
How
make
about a card game?
Yeah.
It'll never work. Whoops, I'm playing it.
Go back even further. Let us make a real-time strategy game.
Right.
Like, Blizzard are the perfectionists. They take something and they make it perfect.
Right.
But I do... Yeah. I do think this would be a very good introduction. Like, it's very difficult to speak too negatively of this for me personally, because it's slow, and the timeline thing is way too slow. Like, that timeline thing needs to be sped up something wicked, because
you're never going to want to stop it. Like, you only want it to stop. There should be a button to say just skip to the next milestone. Like, I don't want to do stuff in between. That's fine.
Like, the strategy stuff, I think it's very basic. It can get in depth, but it's kind of very basic. I think it's a good stepping stone from here to stuff like XCOM. And then if you want to go absolutely crazy and the timeline stuff is what really dragged you, go play Crusader Kings 2.
Right.
And if the SRPG stuff really grabbed you, go play the ones you mentioned. Go play Final Fantasy Tactics. Go play XCOM. If you want to go literally insane, go play Disgaea 1.
Sure. Yes. If you absolutely want to go insane with hereditary stuff.
Hereditary stuff. Yeah. Systems upon systems upon systems upon systems.
God, yeah.
Like
all of the systems.
Yeah. Disgaea 1 is that kind of thing. Like, it's that's the expert level SRPG, shall we say?
Yes. That's your like 400 level class.
But it's. I'll be honest, like, it's really difficult for me to say, but this is 100% a middle ground game for me.
Yep.
It's like, I felt like Costume Quest had the humour to carry me through, and the story was cute and intriguing enough. I wasn't in that to enjoy the combat or anything like that. Like, it was the writing that got me through. Whereas this felt like a bit of a slog to me, because I wasn't invested in the houses, because I didn't understand 100% what I was doing when I first started playing. I imagine if I was to start a new game tonight, I would probably actually enjoy the beginning part of the game a whole bunch more.
Sure.
But jumping in as semi-blind as I did, with little tidbits of information from my wife, like, this game has sat squarely in the middle. And again, we mentioned earlier, our personal circumstances. We're both tired. We're both looking to take a break.
It's the end of the year.
And it's the end of the year. And it's like, here is two very, very deliberate games that you're playing at once. And it's like,
Snoozeville.
Come on.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about our next game then.
I'm guessing you really didn't like this one, by the way.
No, I think for me to wrap up, I think it's a solid game made by a team of people that obviously loved the game that they were making.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it needed more time in the oven, and it needed way more tutorializing, because I feel like it almost wants to be a roguelike, where it's like, oh no, you ended your run, try again. But each run, because of the slowness of the combat, feels very, very long.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if it was me, I would recommend, instead of playing this game, play Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a better starter SRPG.
I'm also pretty sure that game is on... don't hold me to this, but I'm pretty sure that game is on your top 10 games of all time.
Oh, guaranteed. Yeah, it's such an incredible strategy game. Yeah, but yeah, I understand why people like it, and it's not one of those games where it's like, I can't believe anybody likes it. But it just, at every turn, it does something that frustrates me, and combining all that stuff, it's just not a game. I didn't like it 3 years ago when I picked it up, and I still don't like it. It's just enough little. It's death of a thousand cuts for all these decisions they have. But let's talk about our next game. Next game for next month, chosen by you, the patrons, is Iconoclasts.
Why does that ring a bell?
It just came out early this year, I think it was. Came on PS4, PS Vita, PC, OS X, Linux, and Switch. I don't know if it's out on Xbox One. I couldn't find anything. Sorry, people. HowLongToBeat.com rates it at around 11 hours for a standard clear. This is a adventure platformer Metroidvania that is focused on boss battles and puzzles, so I'm super pumped.
Oh, well, yeah, of course you are.
Yeah, I think...
circle straight back around to games my wife won't play.
Exactly, yeah. I think when we saw the trailer for this earlier this year, I think both you and I hurried to put it on the list, because it looks like it's one of those games where I think all three of us will probably enjoy it. So,
was this an E3 thing?
Maybe it was E3 where they were putting it out on PS4 and Switch. I don't remember. But next month is Iconoclasts. We'll meet up third Saturday of next month, and until then, bye-bye.
Bye.